You found the WMIX Saturday Sports Show on AM 940 and WMIXSports.com. Cared for by Crossroads Community Hospital. The Saturday Sports Show has been recognized by the Illinois Broadcasters Association as one of the top radio programs in the state. That means the very best mix of local sports content is right here. From the powerhouse on Broadway, the Saturday Sports Show starts now.
And good morning. Hard to believe it's football postseason, but Week 10 is here. 43 games last night took place in the state. You can find all of those scores online at WMIXSports.com, but this is a Saturday Sports Show. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital, and it's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
That's Danny Zerwinski. I'm Chris Hugo. Jeff Crow in studio with us as well. We're here until 10 o'clock today. We'll be talking about postseason high school football, and of course, with 43 games last night, that means 86 of the 256 teams have already played a postseason game, which means that today 170 teams will take the gridiron to see who moves on to see a Week 11. Of course, we had a full scoreboard last night on WMIXSports.com. We went statewide last night. It's pretty developed. Of course, as we take a look at some of the games from last night, of course, nothing really of totally local interest, I would say, outside of maybe the O'Fallon Panthers in Class 8A, Edwardsville last night in 7A, Nokomis maybe if you want to stretch that to in Class 2A. But other than that, most of the games last night, I believe, in Chicagoland.
Most of them were, but if you want to look at Athens beating Nokomis 27-21 in Class 2A, Williamsville is in 3A beat Pana 45-0. 5A, Normal U High beat Decatur MacArthur. That will affect some of the teams in Southern Illinois. Of course, Normal U High, 5A school, and that winner, if I can find it, there it is. Normal U High will play the winner of Jacksonville and Marion. So if Marion wins, they will have to go to Normal U High. If Jacksonville wins, Normal U High will go to Jacksonville next week. So Normal U High could see Jacksonville again. In Class 6A, there really wasn't a team in our area that is any of interest. Everything in the metro, or I should say the Chicagoland area. 7A, Edwardsville hosted Tinley Park Andrew and won 59-28. And in 8A last night, Neuqua Valley beat O'Fallon 38-7. And that was the only local interest of scores from last night.
There you go. Statewide scores at WMIXSports.com, including a lone 1A volleyball regional championship as well as some soccer. It's all at WMIXSports.com. Today, an interesting guest list for you. We're going to go a little bit differently today. Of course, we'll talk Mountford and Rams football with Mountford and Rams head football coach Jared Shaner. We will also have WMIX and television correspondents Todd Rushing and John Shadowins today. They made some appearances on Channel 3 last night, WSIL, of course. We are very proud to have had our correspondents on television last night, but of course a great working relationship with sports director Darren Kennard and us as well. But I'm glad that they were able to do that. We'll have them on today, of course, to talk about local playoff football. Bruce Dickey, voice of the Fairfield Mules, we'll have him in the 9 o'clock hour. We'll also talk with Mike Trude, another television native, of course, but he is the voice of the Marion Wildcats. We'll talk about the Marion-Jacksonville game today. And when you're thinking about area games of interest, and that one intrigues me greatly. You have that high-octane Marion offense. Brant Hill, of course, has been on an incredible run lately since he came back in against the Mountford and Rams in Week 5. And Marion Wildcats have been on a roll ever since. But the Wildcats have the Jacksonville Crimson, and you'll get that intriguing South 7 matchup versus a well-rounded team out of the Central State 8 and the Jacksonville Crimson, because 5-4 in the CS8 isn't like 5-4 anywhere else.
No, and the South 7, of course, has struggled in recent years in the playoffs against the CS8. And you look at last year, where, Normal U High came down, and then, of course, you look at Jacksonville came down last year to Centralia. The South 7 right now is 5-7 versus the Central State 8 Conference. And, of course, last year Jacksonville beat Centralia, Chatham beat Marion, 11 Chatham beat Carbondale. And you go through, and the last team from the South 7 that beat a Central State 8 team in a playoffs bowl, you have to go all the way back to 2003 when Althoff shut out Taylorville 24-0. So that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 game losing streak the South 7 has against the CS8 in the last 10 years. Well,
and a CS8 that has markedly improved over about that same amount of time, of course. Taylorville will be leaving after this year to go back to the Apollo Conference. But when you really look at the teams they've put out, they have Sacred Heart Griffin, they have Rochester, they, of course, have Chatham Glenwood, who the Titans have been titanic, of course, over the past however many decades you want to go back. But you look at that conference, that is going to go to a closed conference next year, as I believe they're welcoming in, is it the Decatur schools they're welcoming in next year, MacArthur and Eisenhower?
Yep.
So that'll fill things up, and it'll be interesting to see that conference. That's, of course, that's why the Mount Vernon Rams couldn't renew their contract with Rochester for Week 1 in the future, and have replaced them subsequently with the Taylorville Tornadoes, of course. But really, when you're taking a look at how some of these conferences have done against each other, it's kind of, you'll see a kind of a northern favoritism, of course, and some of those marks, just the different brands of football between North and South.
Well, it is, and the competition level in the CS8, and this is no knock against the South 7, but the CS8 competition level is a little bit different when you have to roll out against Rochester, Normal U High, Jacksonville, and amongst Chatham, and amongst others. It's a little different brand of football up north, and I think over the last 5 to 10 years, as we have seen in the playoffs, Southern Illinois hasn't done very well and hasn't advanced very far, hasn't advanced several teams very far in the last 5 years or more. And Southern Illinois is kind of taking a hit. And you look at today's ball games as far as the teams that are in the Big Three conferences down here in Southern Illinois. Realistic, when you look at it, things could break down. Obviously, the winner of Chester and Carmi is getting to the second round, but you have to be very careful today. A lot of teams have to be very careful not to get beat, or there could be several teams go by the wayside today if everybody's not careful.
Well, there definitely could. And, of course, we'll talk with Jared Shaner about the Mount Vernon Rams' effort today against the Mattoon Green Wave. That game will be on AM 940, 94.1 FM, and video at WMIXsports.com. 2:30 your scheduled pregame, 3 o'clock your scheduled kickoff. That is in Coles County today. That's at Mattoon, the Green Wave, and the Rams. It's all on WMIX, presented by Community First Bank. That said, we do need to talk with Mount Vernon Rams head football coach Jared Shaner. Of course, we will talk a little bit more about last week's game. Of course, talk about how his team felt when they saw their matchup, and talk a little bit about how he feels his team can do against the Green Wave. We'll talk about that on the Saturday Sports Show. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
The health of your kidneys has a big impact on your overall health, affecting everything from your blood pressure to your bones. And if you ever have a kidney problem, Dr. Kangura is here to help. Dr. Kangura trained at the Mayo Clinic and specializes in conditions ranging from kidney stones and uncontrolled high blood pressure to chronic kidney disease. Dr. Kangura sees patients at Crossroads Specialty Clinic. For an appointment, call 618-241-9071.
America is a nation on wheels. Everyone has at least one automobile. We use them for shopping, work, everything we do. But they can be a threat. Some accidents can't be prevented. Your professional Pekin Insurance Agency, Page Insurance on Crown View in Mount Vernon, can help protect you from a large financial loss when an accident happens. Call Page Insurance today at 242-7000 about low-cost auto insurance from Pekin Insurance. Ask them about the many money-saving discounts that are available. Depend on your hometown professionals. Pekin Insurance.
Here's Jeff Schmidt for Schmidt Chevrolet of Mount Vernon.
The 2014 Impala, I can't say enough about this car. It is such a beautiful car, and the people that drive them are just so happy with the performance, the luxury, the ride and drive. They are so quiet. They compare them to more of the luxury import cars, and the style of the new Impala is second to none, and it's really a beautiful car.
Schmidt Chevrolet of Mount Vernon, 3423 Broadway in Mount Vernon.
High school sports are back, and your source for scores is WMIXsports.com. Also, find archived local sports broadcasts, video highlights, national sports headlines, and more right at your fingertips. Listen and watch live WMIX sports broadcasts from your desktop or any mobile device. Need a score? Want to see a sick dunk? Miss a game? Didn't get up in time for the Saturday sports show? That's right, it's all at WMIXsports.com. Another free service from Withers Broadcasting. WMIXsports.com.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX and WMIXsports.com, all powered by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
You bet it is. Of course, Danny Zerwinski alongside. I'm Chris Shuko. Jeff Crow in studio with us as well as we talk with Mount Vernon Rams head football coach Jared Shaner. Coach, good morning.
Morning, guys. How are you?
You know what, doing pretty good. I have to ask. I've asked pretty well every week. I don't see why change it up any at all on a special day, but have you gotten any sleep?
I was in bed for quite a while, but not a lot of sleep, no.
Well, I would assume, obviously, have to be pretty excited today. Playoff football at Mattoon, the Green Wave. And before we talk too much about Mattoon or even talk a little bit about last week's game with the Mount Carmel Golden Aces, how did your team feel, all congregated there in the auditorium, when they finally saw their name come up in the 5A football pairings?
Well, I think there was just a lot of excitement, a lot of energy, and just I think the kids just realized what an accomplishment for some difficult years and all the hard work that they've put in. Just to be able to see your name pop up there, and it was a pretty exciting time.
An exciting time for your team, and of course the fun of Frivolli probably stopped as soon as that led onto the board. Preparation for the week against Mattoon, as far as that goes, how has things gone in practice during the whole week to get to this afternoon's game?
Well, it went pretty good. As a coach, you want to keep consistency and keep things the same throughout the week, and we try to do that. We had, as you guys know, a lot of rain this week, so that changed our plans slightly, but we did get outside a couple of days, and then we're pretty fortunate to have a nice little indoor place we can use right on campus and still be able to get some stuff done. So the kids responded really well, and I think they're ready and prepared.
Ready and prepared. Mattoon comes in, a second-year member of the Apollo Conference, a team that did play Marion in Week 2, so some familiarity as far as playing a team from Southern Illinois. What does Mattoon bring to the table, both offensively and defensively, that you'll see today?
Well, offensively, they bring a lot of athleticism and skill at the skill positions. They have a very good quarterback, a very good running back, and then probably 3 or 4 receivers who just do a great job of getting themselves open, and when things break down, they come back to the ball and make a lot of plays out of poor plays. And defensively, they're probably a 4-3 base defense. They've got a couple of very aggressive kids that lead them in tackles, and it should be a great matchup for us today.
Great matchup for your team. As far as looking around at your team right now, 9 weeks into the season, a lot of bumps and bruises, a lot of people injured, we know. How is your team health-wise heading into today's first-round matchup?
Well, just about like we have been the last several weeks. The 2 guys that are out have been out for a while, Drew and Braden. But other than that, it's as healthy as you can be in Week 10. When the playoffs roll around to the end of the football season, nobody feels good, that's for sure. You have a lot of things going on, and we've had, a couple kids go to the chiropractor this week and get adjustments. We had a couple kids that just had some sickness and got on some antibiotics and things like that. But overall, knock on wood, we're doing about as good as we could be right now.
Of course, you see the announcement on TV, of course, last Saturday. You go into work mode as soon as you find out whom you're playing. You start to research, maybe enjoy the night a little bit, and really get to cracking on Sunday. What have you been able to find out about the Green Wave? Looks like they have a run-to-the-mill spread offense that the Rams are quite familiar with.
Yeah, they're a little unique in that, kind of like Marion did earlier in the year, they'll come out and get in some run formations, some 2-back sets, and some eye stuff, and try to run it at you a little bit, throw a little play action. And then they'll also, and they might do that for a series, the next series they'll come out and have, empty formation, no back in the backfield, and throw it just about every down. So you have to kind of prepare for a couple different things there. Again, like I said, their skill kids are probably just about as good as we have seen this year. Several kids that just make things happen out on the football field, and it starts with their quarterback. He reminds me, you mentioned Marion, he reminds me a lot of the Hill kid from Marion. Throws the ball well, and then can really hurt you with his speed, too.
Well, of course, and a quarterback that is also their leading rusher, so it doesn't seem, when you compare Mount Vernon versus Mattoon, that there's going to be a lot of similarities in the running games. But as you take a look at a quarterback like Jared Pilson, of course, he has 2 years of experience. Coming off of a game where he threw for 400, 500 yards against the Jerseyville Panthers, how do you instill the confidence in your secondary or your defense to let them know that, hey, this is a kid that can be stopped? Don't pay any attention to his stats. Just go out there and do it. How do you kind of convey that?
Well, we talked all week about, really just trying to contain him more than anything. I think one of the things that he's really good at is, when you get pressure and things break down around him, kind of just improvision, I guess, is one of his strengths. He can make guys miss. So we've talked about, in the films that we have, I have not seen him get hit hard yet. And the reason is he's just so shifty that you feel like you got a bead on him, and you're gonna put a good hit on him, and then he moves a foot to the left, a foot to the right, a foot forward or backward, and guys are kind of running by him. So we've talked about trying to contain him, and he's going to make some plays on us today, and we understand that he's a good athlete, and they're a good team. So their skilled kids are going to make some plays for him, but we've just hopefully got to limit them and not give up the big play down the field. They've scored that way a lot of 50 and 60-yard scores, whether they be running or passing. So we've got to try to eliminate those.
Looking at today, the weather, you're obviously familiar with Central Illinois. We're going up there at a 3 o'clock kickoff. Is there a plan? I would think Mattoon probably more affected than your team would be by the possible winds and whatnot of Central Illinois. Have you guys taken that into consideration as well, as far as looking into the offensive plan?
Well, we've obviously we've been watching the weather all week. It's supposed to be a nice day, but like you said, there's a chance for some gusty winds today, and like you said, doesn't affect us probably quite as much. I think defensively we have to be smart about how we play them. Obviously, if the wind's running with your football field, then teams are more likely to take shots down the field when they got the wind at their back. So those are all things that you think about as a coach or when you're calling plays on offense and defense. So we'll get there today and kind of see what it's like, see how windy it is, and go from there.
Well, when you take a look at your Mount Vernon Rams, 6-3 on the season, they get a big win to end the season with the Mount Carmel Golden Aces. Not a lot of time to celebrate that. You got to get to work for the postseason. But going into today, we're talking a lot about the Greenway, but talking more about the Rams. Have to be proud of their effort, that 6-3 finish, but also just have to be proud after the nice turnaround of 1-8, 0-9 to get that 6-3 mark, get in the postseason, and now have a great matchup and a great chance to possibly even see Week 11.
Well, yeah, like you said, just very proud of our kids. We have a lot of kids that have stuck through some difficult times in terms of wins and losses, and they've continued just to fight and to work and believe in what we're doing. And as a coach, that makes you feel pretty good. And now we're being rewarded a little bit with a pretty solid season. And like you said, hopefully, if we go up and take care of business today, we'll get to extend it one more week and continue to be rewarded.
As far as leaving and all this stuff, decently long road trip. Of course, you'll do it in the fall going to Charleston. But how do you go about as a coach preparing your team to get on a bus, get up early, get on a bus, and have them ready to go when that kickoff comes at 3 o'clock this afternoon?
Well, about 2 or 3 days ago, we started talking about just preparation leading up to it. It doesn't just start today, but we talked about trying to get to bed at a decent hour these last couple of days. Making sure they're staying hydrated, making sure they're not skipping meals and things like that. Packing your bag the night before and getting yourself up. We're going to get them here about an hour before our bus leaves this morning and get them out on the football field a little bit and jog around and go through some last-minute things. And then, in terms of the bus ride and stuff, we've talked about it. I feel like our team kind of has a blue-collar mentality. We're not real flashy. We don't throw the ball 40 times a game. We got 3 or 4 guys who run the ball real hard and a pretty solid offensive line. And I feel like we'll come up and hit pretty hard on defense. So, we try to convey that. It doesn't matter how long our bus ride is or how we get there or anything like that. We just want to come out and be a tough, hard-nosed football team, hopefully not make too many mistakes and go take care of business.
A little bit chillier up north. Some of your assistants last week were complaining about the cold. They were making fun of you wearing shorts. So 2 questions. Are you planning to wear shorts today, and how are your assistants going to handle this colder weather when we head to Central Illinois?
Well, yeah. Number one, shorts always for me. If our season goes 4 more weeks and we're playing on Thanksgiving, I'll still wear shorts. So that one's a given. The assistant coaches, I get a kick out of it. It isn't cold yet. I'm originally from northern Illinois, and I've got some family in Wisconsin and stuff. And it gets cold there. It doesn't even get cold in southern Illinois here. So these guys are all bundled up. They've got stocking caps on when it's like 42 degrees out. And to me, that's just a nice, cool day.
Of course, talking about the long bus ride and a little bit of debate going in. What style of bus will the kids be taking today?
Well, we're taking school buses, and that was by choice. I talked to my captains a little bit and talked to Coach Creel, our athletic director, and probably could have got some charters if we chose to. But, as a team, we just made the choice that, we've been doing just fine. And while we're appreciative of the fact that our school and our gridiron would be willing to do that for us, like I said, I just feel like it's not an overly long ride. We should be there in about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes. The other thing is we just kind of a blue-collar mentality. We got a bunch of kids who don't get too concerned with statistics or, kind of the peripheral things, how you get to a game. They just like playing football, and hopefully that's what we do today, just get off the bus and are prepared to play hard and play physical.
I know there's a lot of excitement going in, not only with the players, but with the coaching staff, yourself as well. How do you keep that business-as-usual mentality, knowing that this is most everybody involved, aside from some of the coaches' first trip to the postseason?
Well, like I said, we've tried to keep practice pretty routine this week. We've talked to the kids about the fact that it is an exciting game, and it's fun for our football team, our high school, our community. But the fact of the matter is, it is, it's another 48-minute game, and when it really comes down to it, there's 11 guys on the field for each team at a time, and we've done this 9 times, and a lot of these kids have been doing it since they were in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. So there's not a lot of difference once the ball's up in the air and it's kicked off. We've tried to make it normal this week, and just told them to go out and play hard and have fun.
Final question for you, of course, before we let you go and get ready to get prepared to see you up in Mattoon, is our WMIX Sports Social Media Question of the Week. And I know it's going to be a tough one for you. What is the one food or drink you must have if you were stranded on a deserted island?
If we were going with food, it would probably have to be chocolate. And if I could really stretch it out there, it'd be chocolate and peanut butter. Those I love Halloween because of the Reese's pumpkins come out. So maybe something like that. And drink, I guess, there's a whole bunch of them. Kind of depends on the day, but Mountain Dews and Diet Cokes would do me just fine on a desert island.
Does it depend on day or time of day?
No, really time of day. I think it's not sure. Just more the day. Just what I'm feeling that morning. I've been drinking Mountain Dew enough, and this is bad, but it doesn't have a whole lot of effect on me as far as the caffeine and sugar and stuff. So, this morning's a Mountain Dew day, big day. So, stop by Casey's as you like to do once in a while, Mr. Hugo, and got a slice of breakfast pizza and a Mountain Dew, and ready to go.
Very nice. I wouldn't have it any other way on playoff day. Coach, we'll see you soon, but good luck against the Green Wave from Mattoon, and hopefully we're talking Week 11 football next week.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. We'll see you today.
That is Jared Shaner, head coach of Mount Vernon Rams football, of course. Rams and the Green Wave. It's at 3 o'clock today at Mattoon. We hope to see you up there, but if not, we'll have the game for you on AM 940 and 94.1 FM. Also, video online at WMIXsports.com. Our coverage will start at 2:30. We hope you'll tune in or watch if you're unable to make it today to Coles County. We'll take a break on the Saturday Sports Show. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the Rams game today against the Green Wave, and we'll still have our WMIX Sports correspondents coming up a little bit later in the 8 o'clock hour. This is the Saturday Sports Show powered by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
We're back after these.
This is Chase Landers with Landers Collision Centers. Imagine this. You're driving down the road. It's dark as can be outside. Thank goodness you just had that left headlight bulb replaced. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see a thing. Now, close your eyes. Okay, don't close your eyes. You're supposed to be driving. Imagine noticing a slight twinkle off to the left, just above the ditch. What is that, you think to yourself? All of a sudden, whap! You've just encountered your first deer hit. The left side of your vehicle is beat up pretty bad. The next thing I want you to imagine is very simple. Picking up your phone and dialing 1-888-LANDERS to set up your repair. Deer claims are common, and usually a very simple process which fall under comprehensive coverage. This is Chase Landers asking you to allow Landers to be your collision repair shop of choice. Whether it be a deer hit, fender bender, or the regular, uh-oh, sorry mom, Landers is here for you whenever you need us. Big or small, Landers fixes them all. 1-888-LANDERS, that's 1-888-LANDERS.
Complete. That's the Orthopedic Center of Southern Illinois with a full sports medicine clinic, state-of-the-art MRI, a spine care team that focuses on pain management, arthroscopy specialists offering total joint replacement, hand surgery, and complete rehabilitation services. Doctors Chow, Hool, Ahn, Kowalski, Freehill, and Smith stand ready to serve you today with offices in Mount Vernon and Centralia and satellite offices in Benton and Nashville. Find out more online at orthocenter-si.com.
Hi, this is Joe David Cummins, President of Community First Bank. By now you have heard about our new One Checking product. The new One Account is a high interest earning, free checking account designed for everyone. Unlike other banks that pay interest on higher balance, this account pays interest on all balances. From high schoolers to Warren Buffett, One will work for you. You can talk to one of us at 244-3000 and learn about the details. One, exclusively at Community First Bank. You will be one happy customer. Member FDIC.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX and WMIXSports.com, all powered by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
You betcha. Of course, 2:30 today is your pregame for WMIX sports coverage of the Mount Vernon Rams and Mattoon Green Wave. I don't know if I said the frequencies or not. AM 940 and 94.1 FM. Video online at WMIXSports.com. The game today, the coverage presented by Community First Bank. But you look at the Rams' chances, of course, going into last week. I know we were sitting here with notepads and trying to figure out possibly the 8 teams in the quad. And then, as the day progresses, we start to figure out the playoff teams. The IHSA releases the playoff teams. You separate them into 32s, going down from largest enrollment to smallest. If you split up the 32 5A teams, you could see that there was no conceivable way that there could be quads. Whenever you could divide up evenly into 2 pairs of 6, or 2 pair, or a pair, 2 pair, 1 pair, because a pair is 2, of 16. We've got that figured out. And half Chicagoland, half downstate, so it made sense that they were going to go halves. And it's about that point that we kind of had a feeling that the Rams are going to play the Green Wave and that Marion would get Jacksonville. But you take a look at what may have been, if the Rams don't get that 6th win last Friday against the Mount Carmel Golden Aces and upset an AP state-ranked team, you're looking at a completely different matchup and one not quite as favorable. When we say favorable, well, it's a 6-3 versus a 7-2, but probably not quite as favorable as the matchup as today's matchup is.
I think, if it was an 8-team setup like you and I were predicting last Saturday morning before we left, I think you'd have been looking at a Chatham, an SHG, or something along that line. That's kind of where the setup was, depending on what SHG goes. But then the IHSA throws that old proverbial curveball at you, and then they say, you know what, we're going to make the 5A 2 16-team pools. And, here's the difference. If Mount Vernon does not win next week, they're 5-4, and logically could be going to Normal U High. They could have been going to Highland. They could be in a whole different setup. I mean, this is kind of how it went. That win probably got them away from having to deal with some schools to the north or northwest that normally you do not see. It got them with Mattoon, who they're familiar with, obviously, in basketball and baseball. A little more familiarity, not such a question mark. And, and if you win, you get a home game next week, no matter what, because if Peoria wins, they're a 15. If Washington wins, they've had a home game. And, it's a very nice setup right now for Mount Vernon. That win last Friday night, you didn't really realize how big that win was until it actually happened. That was huge for Mount Vernon.
Well, it was. And you take a look at the Green Wave, and you take a look at what they've been able to put together this season. Undefeated champions of the Apollo Conference.
Offensively, there's what I see right out of the gate. They've scored 38 points a game. Okay, they've scored over 50 twice, over 43 times, and over 33 times. They were shut out one time by Highland, which tells you just how pretty good Highland is. We know from the Valley. They have also allowed 32 points a game. They've given up a couple of 50-pointers. They've given up 2 30s, and they've given up 4 20s. So that tells me that they're going to lay it out, spread, try to outscore you. Now, if you look at their records, they've played Marion. That's the common opponent. They lost to Marion on the road by 2 touchdowns, 57-43. That's a winning team they played. They lost to Highlands, so that's 0-2 against winning teams up until Jerseyville when they won. They're 1-2 against winning teams. And that, to me, is the strength of schedule that I look at. I don't care how many points you scored or whatever. I go look and see who you've played. And against teams in the playoffs, they're 1-2. That, to me, tells me a lot right there what you're running into. And, again, the thing you have to remember, too, is they've been in the playoffs the last 2 years because of the Apollo Conference. Before that, they were in the Big 12, and they didn't sniff that for a long time.
Well, and you take a look at the Apollo this year and the struggles that those teams have had. They were the only team above 500 in the Apollo. You know, you take a look at the Flaming Hearts of Effingham, who went 4-1. They finished 4-5. Only wins they had were in Apollo play.
Right.
You look at Mount Zion, same case for the Braves. They only lost to the Green Wave and Hearts in Apollo play. Those were their only 3 wins on the season. Salem Wildcats 2-7 on the year. 2 wins come in Apollo play. Paris, having the Apollo schedule, they're getting the heck out of Dodge going to the LIC next year.
Right.
You know, they have had 1 single solitary win out of their 4 wins in Apollo play. Chucktown, Charleston struggled this season. They went 0-5 in the Apollo. So when you take a look at Mattoon and their 38 playoff points, only 22 of those playoff points came against teams, came out of their victories. The other 6 teams, of course, were against the teams that they lost. That's how those were divided up. Power points, of course, is what those used to be called back in the day against the teams that you had beaten. But most importantly, when you really take a look at this Green Wave team, you're going to find a high-octane offense, but it's going to, if you take a look at game-by-game statistics, you're going to see an offense able to get off the ground against the times they did score 50 against opponents that gave up hundreds on the season defensively. Right. So most of their contests were defensive optional. Yes, they did shut out Paris, but I'm just saying some of the statistics you may see today and may hear us say today could be a little skewed, because you look at Jersey. Jersey's a team that scored a lot of points, gave up a lot of points, but still finished 6-3 in a Valley that struggled this year. This is not the Jersey team of last year that has a kid redshirting at Syracuse. This is a much different Jerseyville team, and so I'm a little skeptical of seeing the 473 or 500 passing yards when Jersey came right back and had 400-plus yards of their own. So it's just a little tough to chew on. It's
competition, and I think when you look at it, there's no knocking the Apollo. I know our friends in North are probably mad because what we're saying, but the facts are the facts. When you look at the 5 games, you know, you're winning by 10 points, by 28 points, by 27 points, by 18 points, by 32 points. There really wasn't anybody in Apollo that gave them a run. Highlands beat them. Marion beat them. We know how tough Marion is. We know how tough Highland is this year. And we know how Jersey is. Jersey is not as good as they were last year, but they are a playoff team. But Mattoon missed the playoffs the last 4 years until they got in the Apollo the last 2 years. And I think the cool thing about it, when you dig it up, in the first year of the playoffs, which was 1974, for those wondering, Mount Vernon and Mattoon played each other then, and Mount Vernon lost to Mattoon 38-21. Coach Tickner will be a part of both of those games from 1974 and today in 13, as far as the Mount Vernon Rams and Mattoon playing in the playoffs. So that's the cool thing when you go back and look that these 2 teams played in the playoffs in 74. Not sure if they've had a regular season matchup between then and now. It would seem like they would have somewhere along the line, maybe, possibly. But when you look at playoffs, it was interesting to go back and see the first year of the playoffs that Mattoon and Mount Vernon had matched up.
Well, exactly. And, you know, we're not dismissing the Apollo Conference just because, you know, when you take a look at it, they've had some teams that have done well against the South 7, not only in regular season play, but, of course, in the postseason as well. We think about Althoff traveling to Effingham and thinking that was going to be a sure thing for the Crusaders.
That was
may have been, if not for the mud.
That was the first time I saw Ted Knapp walk on mud. I never saw him get dirty. Now, Jared Knapp that night officiating, he looked like he rolled in it. How I always kid Ted about this is that I don't know how that night, we were there, how he was able to walk on mud. I never understood. Never had a drop of mud on him. But that was a mud fest, 10-7.
Maybe he has some stock and some Clorox wipes.
He's got something going on. But I mean, like the South 7 against the Apollo is 4-2, so they've had success because of Cahokia and Marion and Althoff. That's the 4 wins. Now, Mount Vernon played Charleston in 07 and lost up there at Charleston 28-12. You remember that game. You were there. Marion had beat Charleston, of course, the next week. But, you know, the difference is Mount Vernon gets the Apollo Conference, 4-2, South 7 against them. Marion gets the CS8. South 7 only 3-7 against them since '96. Nice draw for Mount Vernon today. You just got to get on the bus and you got to take care of business.
Right. We're not proclaiming a victory by any stretch of the imagination or by any means, but we look at the matchups and you look at the fact that most of the teams they have faced, we have seen quite a few of the teams that they have faced this year, and you take a look at the Marion Wildcats were without Brant Hill in that game. He did not, or he might have played a few, gotten some snaps at quarterback. I don't think he played the entire game. If I go back, I may have to go back and reread that for the sake of accuracy. But when you take a look at what they've done and take a look at what the Rams done, just two completely different teams out there on the football field. And the leading rusher for Mattoon is their quarterback Pilson, who has a little bit over 400 yards in the season. Their second back has about 300. That's where their third back is as well. But you have the Rams, who have a 1,085-yard rusher in DeMontez Miller-Gray, DMG, the hyphen, whatever you want to call him. C.J. Lloyd was, I believe, over 500 yards in the season. You take a look at what Graham Hinkin was able to do, and we'll get to a break here in just a moment. Just finish up these stats real quickly on the rushing. But you take a look at the Rams, they all, their top three rushers combined for 2,000 yards this season. So that's quite a bit of difference in the running game.
Oh, like you said, it'll be running versus passing. And if the wind is howling somewhere up there in one direction or another at Mattoon, like it may be as it usually does this time of year, I think Mattoon's going to struggle. And I think that they have to pass the ball. If they rely on to pass so much, they will struggle a little bit. That's just normal, and that's why you see teams try to play later in the day that like to pass.
Huh. That makes sense.
Think about it.
I do.
Teams that want to pass don't like to play in the afternoons on Saturday in the playoffs. They'd rather play Friday night or get a 4 or 5 o'clock starting time because the wind dies down.
True that. We need to take a break, and when we come back, we'll have Todd Rushing. He is our WMIX sports correspondent. We'll talk with him about some of the action today and what he's seen over the course of the season. This is the Saturday Sports Show. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
A digestive problem can affect every area of your life. But now there's a specialist right here in town who focuses on digestive health. Mayo Clinic trained Dr. Tegpaul Atwal has opened the only gastroenterology clinic in Mount Vernon. Dr. Atwal treats acid reflux, gallbladder problems, inflammatory bowel disease, ulcers, and more. For your appointment with Dr. Atwal at Crossroads Specialty Clinic, call 618-241-9071.
Farming is critical to the continued growth of Southern Illinois, and I couldn't be more thankful for the service of the agriculture industry. Hi, Roy Schmidt, Ford dealer at Ford Square, Mount Vernon. We want to salute Farm Bureau members with a special incentive on remaining new 2013 Ford F-150s. If you are a Farm Bureau member, trade in a 1995 or newer Ford Ranger, you can purchase a new 2013 Ford F-150 two-wheel drive for only $18,000 plus tax, title, and destination. All you have to do is finance through Ford Motor Credit. Wow! We can't thank farmers enough for their dedication, but we can offer everyone in the Farm Bureau a great, honest deal on America's #1 truck. Come see one of our sales associates to get the best deal on the heavyweight truck champion at Ford Square, Mount Vernon, 1501 Broadway in Mount Vernon, Illinois, or shop us online at fordsquare.com and find us on Facebook and Twitter.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX and WMIXSports.com. Don't forget your home for the Mount Vernon Rams today. AM 940, 94.1 FM, and video at WMIXSports.com. It's the first Rams postseason game since 2008 when they lost to Bloomington. It'll be today against the Green Wave from Mattoon. Live from Mattoon, of course, 2:30 is your pregame, 3 o'clock is your kickoff. We'd love to see you there with a radio in hand. You can pick up AM 940 up there. You can pick up 94.1 FM most of the way. But there you go, of course.
Well, you can pick up. We're trying to see how far it can go northwest today, too.
Yeah, because it kind of
takes
like a kidney bean type shape
yeah.
when you look at the AM coverage map, and so we've got people testing us out to the northwest, but either way, you're covered when it comes to
Craig Show from Channel 3 heading north to Macomb today for Sluky football. So
we're surrounded by Channel 3 right now.
Channel 3 is everywhere right now, boys and girls.
Yes, it is. He is. We've shared our correspondence over the course of the past week, but we're proud to welcome back to the program yet again, Todd Rushing. Todd, good morning.
Good morning, Dylan.
First question out of the gate before we get to maybe any games that we're going to go watch today or things like that is, did you ever imagine a radio career would lead so quickly to a TV career?
let back. I've done the TV show before, but I didn't realize I would lead into it this year. I thought my TV career was over, and so it just shows you the power of radio still. Even though it doesn't get the credit it deserves, it's still a powerful agent.
Did you have to put did you and Shadowins put makeup on? Did they
Only on the top of my head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they got
it would glare. No, unfortunately, I didn't have to wear any makeup.
Okay. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, normally you think they would, as a bald man myself, or clean-shaven's the word I prefer to use for me, but normally that's one thing photographers complain to me about is, Hugo, you got glare coming off your head. It's going to be impossible to take this picture.
And I did the polite thing and asked them so they wouldn't feel like they were offending me, and they said not to worry about it. So evidently they didn't really want anybody to see me. They thought the glare would be a good thing.
Hey, we go into football today, and you've been a coach at Pinckneyville. You took them their only 2 times in the state football playoffs in the history of that school. You've had 2 different road trips. You've been to Anna Jonesboro, where you've been very familiar with your opponent, and they've sent you to Timbuktu, Bismarck-Henning, where you didn't know where you were going. You didn't know the opponent. You didn't know what you were going to run into. The differences as far as what you have to deal with, rather when you're dealing with familiarity, rather than a team that you have no clue about till you get there that day.
Well, like I said, the familiarity can be hazardous either way. If it's a team I think you've handled, then you have to worry about the complacency of them looking past them. If it's a team that's beaten you already, then you have, no matter how you prepare or what, you still have to worry about that thought in the back of their mind that these guys have handled it. I think that's the problem when you're playing close. Away, they don't have that familiarity of any kind, but I think it's just hard to really understand how your team's going to react to that long trip. And that was we did everything we thought possible that day, and we contemplated going up the stands. We drove. We ended up taking the bus up that day, and I don't think there's a real just set formula that can go by. I think it's one of those things that just be a year-to-year thing, depending on what kind of kids you got, and you never really know how they're going to react until you get there.
A couple of the matchups you guys talked about last night on Channel 3, you got some 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A matchups down here. First, the question is, any intriguing matchup or matchups you see today that's kind of got your eye as far as interest for you?
Well, I think the Chester-Carmi rematch would be an interesting game. That was a close game the first time. They played them very, very close, and Carmi's got to go back down to Chester. I think that's an interesting game. And I think Carmi is an improved football team, just looking at what they've done throughout the year, and I know Coach Simon does a great job. And I don't think his kids are going to be, fearing him. I think they know they can play with him. So I think that's an interesting matchup there. And, also I think that, the one I'm going to see is that means Heron Alton Marquette, because we really don't know that much about Alton Marquette. They're 7-2. I don't think they play in a real tough league, but I think, you never know what you're getting there. They're 7-2, and it's a private school. One of them was the Belleville All-Top game of West Columbia. They're 5-4, but look who they've been beaten by and who they play. So, they're battle-tested, and that's one that's just like Fort Chester got last year. You get a team, you're undefeated, and you get an opponent like that first round. That's tough.
Speaking of tough, and again last night, some games played last night at night around Illinois. Of course, some today in the afternoon. There'll be some later evening starts. Preference for you? Were you a guy that always wanted to play in the afternoon, or did it matter just as long as you were in the playoffs?
It really didn't matter, but if I had to choose, I wanted the afternoon. I think Saturday afternoon football is playoff football, and that's why we always kind of hesitated to play a Saturday game during the regular season. I thought that was, kind of a special thing, gave it a little special note that played in the Saturday afternoon playoff game, more a college-type atmosphere, and I've always thought that was kind of special.
That makes sense now, because I've always wondered what was the difference between Saturday afternoon. I could never understand, and obviously I did not play, so I don't get it, but I never understood the special nature of playing on a Saturday afternoon compared to keeping it normal, basically being creatures of habit on Friday night, but I never thought about the whole college-like atmosphere.
Well, another thing I always thought into it was this time of the year, it might be 15, 20 degrees warmer on Saturday afternoon than it is on a Saturday night. And, 20 degrees is a lot in a football game, especially when you're going from 50 to 30 or 45 to 25. So, it makes a huge difference. I know we'll watch state playoff games, and you'll be sitting up in state championship games in Champaign, and you might be sitting in 40-degree temperature or 45 at the afternoon games, and you're sitting there and you can't find enough clothes to put on for that night game. It makes it tough.
Well, the topography of Central Illinois certainly hasn't helped matters either at the state final games with no hills to block that wind.
Not a lot of windbreaks. Not a lot of windbreaks up there. You're the windbreak.
Hey, when you look at, I'm looking around the curve here at Class 3A, and I see this intriguing matchup of Carterville and Mount Carmel next week. Carterville's heavily favored against Vian. I think Breese Central making that long journey across to Mount Carmel. Is this finally the test we get to possibly see next week with Carterville and Mount Carmel playing each other?
Yeah, I think so, and I think it's a test for both of them. I was looking this morning on there, and I didn't realize that, I know Mount Carmel plays in a very tough league, but I think their league was down even a little bit this year. I don't think their competition level was maybe quite as high there. Those teams had a lot of losses. But And I think, Mount Vernon showed last week that if you come ready to play and you don't have that fear factor, you just come out and play, you can play with it. But that's also, like I said last night, a thing that kind of stirred them, woke them up. Maybe they were a little complacent because they were 8-0, and may have been a bad thing to get them beat and get them fired up a little bit. Yeah, that's an interesting matchup because Carterville just ran roughshod over everybody offensively. I know Mount Carmel always has a strong defensive team to tradition, so that should be an interesting matchup when you get to that game.
Where are you headed this afternoon and or this evening? You may be able to take in a doubleheader.
Well, that's what my plans were. I'm going to Heron today with Coach Bullock. We're going to watch that game. It's in tonight. A friend of mine has a brother that's suffering from cancer, and we're the band I play, and we're doing a benefit dance for them tonight in Coderville. So I won't be able to attend the game tonight. I'm playing a little music.
Oh, nothing wrong with that. Playing first radio, then TV. Now you've rocketed into a band. I mean, anything else you can't do that we don't know of?
I can eat. I'll tell you that. I can cook and eat. That's probably my best.
Hey, speaking of eat, hey, I got a question.
Trades, master of none. How's that?
Well, that's all right. That's where our golf group is too. Hey, our WMIX Sports social media question of the week kind of involves food and drink. It is, what is the one food or drink you must have if you were stranded on a deserted island?
Whoa. Well, I'd have to have water. Being the scientist, and I'm going to say water. I'd have to have that because I know we have to have that. Food-wise, wow, that's a tough one. One thing I really have a hard time going without is peanut butter. I love peanut butter. I just eat peanut butter out of the jar. So I'd say peanut butter, and I'll just go with water for the basic drink. I can survive on water. I drink that most of the time anyway.
There you go. You got the water and the amino acids down to a science there, science teacher.
There you go.
Todd, we've appreciated everything every week this football season. Look forward to doing it again next week.
Oh, I enjoyed it, guys. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate you letting me stay involved in the game this fall.
Amen. That's Todd Rushing, of course, WMIX and TV3 correspondent now, but proud to have had him all season long. Look forward to doing it again next week. Love having our next guest as long as we have him. Of course, girls basketball practices will strike on Monday. Fear that may take him away from us, of course, with his duties, as I believe he is still doing that this year down south. But we'll talk with WMIX sports correspondent John Shadowins after the break here on the Saturday Sports Show. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
Yeah, it's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
I'm Jeremy Pearson with a look at your next rad weather. Partly sunny and breezy today, high 56. Clear tonight, low 31. Then tomorrow, sunny to partly cloudy, high 56. Partly sunny on Monday and Tuesday, a blend of sun and clouds, high 62. Periods of rain and a thunderstorm will occur Wednesday, high 60. Next rad weather from WMIX, Mount Vernon, Illinois.
Rend Lake College Theater presents Treasure Island. This swashbuckling stage adaptation incorporates plenty of comedy and includes all the adventures of Robert Louis Stevenson's classic tale. Enjoy nightly performances Thursday, November 7th through Saturday, November 9th, and a special Sunday matinee on November 10th. It's called a ridiculously funny version of the classic adventure tale. Tickets are just $12 through the RLC ticket office. Call the RLC box office at 437-4321, extension 1467.
Mount Vernon is home to many wonderful people and things, and that includes quality cardiac care from Dr. Ruzaik Ibrahim. A skilled cardiologist, Dr. Ibrahim's training and scientific accomplishments have earned his designation as a Fellow of the American College of Cardiology. His services range from preventative care to the treatment of advanced heart conditions. For an appointment with Dr. Ibrahim at Crossroads Specialty Clinic, call 241-9071 or visit in person at 4113 South Water Tower, Mount Vernon.
Saturday Sports Show is powered by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's here on WMIX. Of course, Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
As we roll toward the top of the 9 o'clock hour, welcome to our program. He is WMIX sports correspondent. He is a famed coach, and now a television sensation. He is John Shadowins. Coach, good morning.
What's up, fellas?
How are you doing? Making another TV appearance last night, of course, on WSIL, and strutting your stuff, basically, there on Sports Extra.
Yeah, I spent 11 years trying not to be on that show every year, and, now it's not so bad. It means I didn't miss the playoffs now, so it wasn't too bad.
And I'd like to say that there was a rumor going around to volleyball match the other night that I would proclaim and profess my innocence of all doing on that deal, too.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah.
I blame Kennard. He knew he said me next to him, it looked that much better.
Well, that's okay. You guys did a good job last night, and today is a great day. Obviously, last night the playoffs started around Illinois, but today mostly all your Southern Illinois teams play. You've been in a situation like Coach Rushing. You've coached teams that have had to play teams you know. You've also coached teams that you had to play that you didn't know a lot about. What's best for you, or what do you like to do best as far as that goes? You want to play somebody you know or play somebody you don't know?
We always wanted to play somebody different, somebody that our school had never played before, and we didn't even mind traveling. Traveling to new places. It just on a Saturday afternoon when we usually play on Friday night. Just all that added up to something really special.
Speaking of today, a lot of good matchups: 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A. Any game or games that you are looking at as far as you kind of keeping your eye on, even though you may not be there, but just kind of keeping your eye on today?
The one I really wish I could go to, I think that the most intriguing matchup is AJ and Robinson. You got a 4 versus a 5 there. It's what's supposed to be the best game. It doesn't always work out that way. I think AJ is the better team, but I think the travel might even things out. And if a person likes scoring, I think that'd be the place to be today. I mean, that scoreboard's going to light up.
See, AJ to me is that team we don't really know a lot about right now, because they started out well, they got banged up and beat up in the middle of their schedule, and really struggled to kind of get down to the end of the year, and now have to go to Robinson, who's a very physical football team that likes to run the ball. Are you concerned, like I am, that AJ may be too beat up with a long bus trip to go up there and maybe pull one off?
Yes and no. I tell you what about AJ. Even though they were beat up this year and they had people out of the starting lineup seemingly every game, some player or another, they always moved the football. Even on the really good team, even on the Cartervilles and the Herons, they did not have a problem moving the football. But then again, they had problems stopping everyone this year. So like you said, I think that Robinson will run over them, but I don't think that Robinson's going to have an answer for AJ's passing game.
We look at the other matchups. That's one there, too. And I know Heron is also an interesting matchup because you don't know what Marquette's going to get. Black Diamond Conference. This is always every year. They play each other 9 weeks. You've been through this. They get out amongst the other teams, with the exception of Chester and Carmi, and people always have that wonderment. What do you see? Obviously, Chester, Carmi, one team's getting to the second round. What do you see for the other teams today? Fairfield, El Dorado, amongst others.
Well, as you guys know, I'm a Black Diamond man and have been my entire life, and we've been living kind of rough here the last 4 or 5 years. The fact is the Black Diamond Conference has not done well in the postseason, and the coaches feel tremendous pressure. I mean, we have a sense of pride, and we want to win those games for our conference. And it's just been a vicious cycle here the last few years, and we're not really getting any better. And I think we've got a good shot today with Fairfield. They got a good draw in Staunton, but that's going to be no picnic. I mean, Staunton comes from a tougher league. They're seasoned, and Fairfield's going to have to be hitting on all cylinders. Vienna, of course, they've got a tough draw. Carterville's the juggernaut this year, and Vienna's up against it.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that El Dorado's got a tough draw as well. At going to Carlisle for one thing, and kind of going south near the end of the year, and finishing at 7-2 after going 7-0 to start with. They're up against it as well.
It's a tough draw, and I think Chester Carmi is one of those games. I think along with Marion Jacksonville, if you wanted to watch an upset, I think that could happen. I could see, or as far as Marion losing at home, and as far as Chester losing at home, I think those are two games that could possibly be upset alert here this afternoon.
Yeah, I think as far as the Diamond teams go, that Carmi is the most well-built for November. They're the most physical. Of course, you've got Saylor, the best athlete on the field in most cases. And with apologies to Chester and Fairfield, they've had great years. I do think that Carmi has the best chance to advance in November.
Well, and of course, as we very much love November football, we talked to Coach Rushing a little bit ago about Friday versus Saturday games. Are you a Friday guy? I know you mentioned like traveling on Saturday afternoon. If you had your ultimate preference, would it be Friday or Saturday?
It was always Friday for us, but I listen to Todd talk, and it's the same reason. We just believe that high school football is for Friday and college football is for Saturday, and Saturday afternoon football is a reward that you earn, not something you just schedule during the season. There'd be teams that would want to play us on Saturdays for their homecomings, and we had a rule with our conference that we could turn that down. It was going to be Friday night if there was no if we couldn't come to a consensus, we play on Friday night. and several schools wanted to play us on Saturday, and we would always insist on Friday night.
Final question for you. We know you're actually next final question. Where are you headed this afternoon, or anywhere you're going?
Well, I've got a couple things on the agenda. I'm the official scorer at Rend Lake College, and they open their season today, so I'll be there at 1 o'clock. But that does let me, the ending time will allow me to go to Carmi and Chester. I missed the first bout between those two schools, so I'd like to see the rematch.
I thought maybe Michigan State was on your agenda today. I guess I was wrong.
Well, not today, Danny, but I've got a DVR, you know.
Yeah. Hey, our final question for you, and you kind of you bunker down like old Bill Belichick does. Our final question is our social media question of the week. What is the one food or drink you must have if you were stranded on a deserted island?
I think that if I had a case of Coke Zero and some pizza, I think that'd be make me happy.
Nice.
Maybe some coffee if I didn't make it.
If you didn't make it, okay.
Right. Coffee made by someone else, that would be all right as well.
Okay.
I'm with you on that, Coach. We appreciate the time you've given us this season and can't wait to do it again. Thank you so much every week for adding so much to our program.
Hey, you're welcome, guys. I enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. John Shadowins, of course, WMIX sports correspondent. Hopefully can have him again next week. We'll see what happens, of course, with his schedule and some of the other duties that he has down there at SV. That said, we need to take a break. It is top of the hour on WMIX. Sports Show is brought to you by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
The tradition of fine vehicles and great service continues at Second Chance Auto. They've been providing quality cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs for families like yours for over 33 years, and many are priced under $10,000. Plus, most have a 3-month or 3,000-mile warranty. Bank rate financing available with instant approval. No gimmicks, no pressure, just honest deals on great vehicles from your friends and neighbors at Second Chance Auto, living and contributing back to the community they serve. Located on Route 142 East in Mount Vernon, call 244-4582.
If you can't pick us up where you live, move. This is WMIX, Mount Vernon, Marion, another Withers Broadcasting Station.
Attention all Medicare Part D pharmacy patients. The annual enrollment period begins October 15th and ends December 7th. And the Medicine Shop Pharmacy is ready to help you. Stop by or call to make an appointment with Eric Black or Tracy Adams. They'll review your current prescription plan and help you manage your Medicare dollars. Here's pharmacist and pharmacy owner Eric Black.
What we offer to our patients is to sit down with them and answer questions that they may have about their medications, really with the end goal of being to maximize their dollars, because that's, after all, what patients really want. We'll take appointments, we'll sit down with them, take as long as it takes to help them choose a plan that is effective at meeting their needs.
Remember, the good folks at the Medicine Shop Pharmacy are never too busy to take care of you. They look forward to understanding your healthcare needs and will focus on keeping you well. The Medicine Shop Pharmacy, 2339 Broadway in Mount Vernon.
To call to make an appointment, call 618-242-8776.
Hi, this is Joe David Cummins, President of Community First Bank. Now is a great time to move your account to Community First Bank. With our new One Account offering the highest interest rate in the market, free checking, and CD specials delivered by people you know and trust, why would you not bank with the market leader in Jefferson County? We offer 5 locations with 7 ATMs and have been serving the Jefferson County market since 1906. Stop in and see why our bank is the fastest growing bank in Jefferson County. Community First Bank. Welcome back to Personal Banking. Member FDIC.
Hour number 2 of the Saturday Sports Show rolling along, sponsored by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital. It's what healthcare should be. As we roll into hour number 2, we shift gears to people that do the same thing we do, talk on the radio. And joining us now, the voice of Fairfield Mules football, Mr. Bruce Dickey. Bruce, it's been way too long since I've talked with you. How are you on this Saturday morning?
Good morning, Danny. I'm doing great. Thanks very much for calling. I appreciate it.
Hey, love having you on, and we had an opportunity today to get you on to talk about Fairfield Mules football, a team that it just keeps rolling under Justin Townsend. So impressed. He's been a guest on our show so many times over the years already. Fairfield Mules go 8-1, get a Black Diamond Conference title last week, first one since '94 when Justin Townsend was a member of the Mules. Had to be a special time in Fairfield last weekend.
Oh, it was a big time over there. We won it over at Chester, and I thought we were just co-champs or something like that. And figured that they'd be the third pick in the conference as the playoffs came along, and shoot, then El Dorado lost on Saturday, and all of a sudden the Mules are conference representatives and number one in the quadrant because they beat Chester, and folks just on Saturday couldn't believe it. Big time, huge time last Saturday. Big time.
And you talk about, let's go back to that game, Fairfield at Chester. Chester had a 19-game winning streak in the conference. It actually started, I believe, when Chester had beaten Fairfield on last-second play or late in the game. You guys go over there and play. What was the key in Fairfield going over there and getting that big win over by the river last Friday night?
You know, you hear it time and again about folks, coaches will tell you, time of possession. We got to control the football. And that's really what the Mules did. Their offense just ran the ball so well. They had the ball for 18 minutes in the first half and 16 in the second half. And whenever the Mules got a 2-touchdown lead at halftime, and of course Chester's a big second-half team, and they came back and took the lead on 3 straight touchdowns in the second half, and then Fairfield came back on a 5 or 6 minute drive late in the fourth quarter to win the game, and it was time of possession. The Mules, this Mules team is really intelligent. They don't make mistakes. I'm on knock wood. They don't turn the ball over. They do a real nice job of that. And that's kind of what happened on Friday.
That's a good deal. Your team, talk about the Fairfield being a smart football team, a veteran team as well that Justin Townsend returns. And last year they didn't make the playoffs, but this year obviously 8-1 conference champs. How much motivation was there during the offseason, of course during the season, to get a win and get back to the playoffs for Fairfield, Illinois?
Well, you know, you hear a lot of teams that'll say they've got a chip on their shoulder because folks aren't giving them their due, and these seniors. Nobody really thought that they would. So I was predicting 6-3. The newspaper guy in town here, Wees, was predicting 5-4, and that was pretty much the thought throughout the area that we think we can make the playoffs. We ought to be a decent team. We ought to have a good shot, but then I think the players might have heard some of that. I know the coaches heard it because the players and the coaches. Talking to Coach Townsend before the season, he said, we're going to have a pretty good team. We're going to be pretty good. We've got a good shot at winning the conference. And, I hear that. You hear that from Coach, and you think Coach speak. But no, he meant it. And the players, they had a really good off season. And I think they heard that. And they heard what, us supposed experts were saying and what other folks throughout the conference were saying. And they took that to heart, and they thought, we're going to prove those guys wrong. And that's what they did. And you got to like when a team does that. It doesn't happen very often.
I like what Fairfield's done. We always kid Coach Townsend always that the Fairfield Mules have the longest Week 1 winning streak of any team in the Diamond, the South 7, and the River to River Conference. I think it's like 13 or 14 Week 1 wins in a row. And, of course, Fairfield jumps out early. And you guys start out the year 5-0, and you play El Dorado tough, gave El Dorado a fit in Week 6 and won 3 in a row, including that Chester win. What impresses me, I know the stats offensively gets a lot of ink. I look at the defensive stats, and this team has thrown out 5 games of single points ball games they've given up. I mean, it has to be the defense involved in this as well as much as it is the running game.
Oh, that's absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Danny. And that's the thing. I get the halftime stats. We do of course, at halftime, read the stats over the radio, and every week you can pretty much count on the Mules turning out 150, 200, 250 yards in the first half, no matter who they're playing. And then you go to the other team stats, and guys that you expect to be really piling up yards. Well, for instance, at Chester, Clendenin, he's a outstanding running back. He's going to be all conference, and he had like 40 yards at halftime, 30 yards, something like that. And the defense, the defensive line, we're small. We're small, but they're fast. They do a nice job of shutting blocks and able to get to the runners. And our real Achilles heel might be catching or might be defending the pass, but nobody's really been able to pass all that much because the line's been able to get to the quarterback so well.
You have the privilege and pleasure, like we do, to be on the radio, but you have the opportunity to do games at what we like to call the train yard. You don't know how many trains are going to roll through. What is the experience like doing games at the train yard when the trains are rolling through during Mules football games?
It's actually a lot of fun, Danny, because you never know what the officials are going to do. Sometimes the officials will stop play, and you'll stand there and watch the officials will stand on the field and watch the train run by because it's really, really loud. And the other times, the officials will let them play on, and that nobody can hear each other talk because you can't hear me and Marty talk on the radio. And it's just you just never know what's going to happen whenever the trains go by, and they do typically go by about 2 times a game, 2 or 3 times.
Mm-hmm. Speaking, the only one closer, I think railroad tracks are closest to maybe Altos Field. They have a railroad track on the backside as well. But today the Mules
doesn't Mount Vernon have a railroad track nearby?
And Mount Vernon's right behind. Not as close as you guys. You guys can step out of the press box and jump right on a coal car. We got to go a little ways.
You have a good point. You can hop the fence when we're hobos.
Hey, that's right. As I said, the hobos come by and watch the ball game there in Fairfield. But at Mount Vernon, they got to walk around the scrap iron yard and get there and all that stuff too to get to the field. But
I guess that's right. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, but railroad tracks. You and I get to deal with. We look at today's matchup. And the Staunton Bulldogs come down from the South Central Conference up in that part of the woods. The Diamonds 3-1 against that conference since '96 in the playoffs. What does Staunton bring to the table today that the Mules are going to have to face?
Well, they're a passing offense. They've been beat up. They've been injured a little bit, and the way they throw the ball, I'm worried that if they get healthy, they're going to be able to take care of to throw the ball nicely against the Mules. Some people think it's going to be a shootout. I know that Weeze was thinking that it'll be in the 30s for both teams, kind of like last week against Chester. Personally, I think that the Mule defense will step up and win by a couple of scores. But Staunton, they've been beat up, so you just don't know what they can bring. And for that matter, they're also in a closed conference like the Black Diamond is. And with the closed conference and nobody able to play anybody outside the conference, it makes it really difficult to kind of judge. So we don't have any idea what's coming. Who knows?
Obviously, there's some people tweeting us now that you're familiar with about making fun of predictions. You probably know who that guy is that writes over in that part of the woods. But a Staunton team.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, a little weasel running around. Hey, Staunton comes in like that, and then Fairfield wins the Diamond. I want to go to the other Black Diamond teams today. 4 other teams in the playoffs. Chester and Carmi play each other. You got El Dorado has to go to Carlisle, and then Vienna-Goreville has to go to Carterville. What do you see or forecast for the Black Diamond today as far as those games are concerned?
God bless Vienna. They get 6 wins, and they get the opportunity to play Carterville. That's just saying, thank you very much for coming. See you later. Because Carterville is so good right now, and Vienna's in trouble. You look at El Dorado, Carlisle. The Mules, if they win, will play the winner of that football game, and it's at Carlisle. So El Dorado, I would have said El Dorado was going to win that game, but they've lost those last 2 games in a row. They lost that one in Vienna last week, and that was a big deal. And I think that they're coming in a bad. I think they're in a bad spot right now, and I think El Dorado's going to struggle up there. Now, if you look at the Carmi-Chester game, Carmi is hot. The Mules didn't want to face them in the playoffs. But we were real happy to get the number 1 seed for not only because we could get a number 8, a 5-4 Staunton team. We also got to avoid Carmi. Carmi took the Mules to overtime. And when Carmi lost 3 games this year, they lost to Chester, they lost to El Dorado, they lost to Fairfield. Fairfield was overtime, and it was a tight game. El Dorado, Carmi played against El Dorado. They were in. They had there was a funeral that day that the team went to, and that's just terrible mindset for a team. And they would love to have had that El Dorado game back, I think. Chester and Carmi is a real good matchup. If it was at Carmi, I'd probably give Carmi the nod. At Chester, with the 2-hour drive from Carmi to Chester, you got to figure Chester's got the advantage, but I think that's going to be an outstanding football game. And Chester's speed in the end will probably win out, but I would not be surprised at all if Carmi steps in there and upsets the Yellow Jackets.
Now, you remember last year, Vienna got into playoffs, beats SVWW, and then went to Greenville, got beat 42-2. You hope things turn out a little bit better, like you said, at Carterville, but you have to wonder because Carterville's such on a mission. Here's I think about El Dorado, see if you agree, is that, you know, they had that big defensive number they talked about for weeks on end, and then they had a situation where they dominate teams defensively and they take care of business, and all of a sudden El Dorado starts giving up points in ball games, and I look down their scores. They give up 21 to the Mules on October 4th, and then they give up 34 to Chester. They lost last week at Vinogorville, like you said. That team's struggling and having to go to Carlisle in the wind and the cold up there. It's a different atmosphere. I kind of wonder about El Dorado, where they're at right now, like you, because defensively I wonder if they got some question marks on their side as well.
That's the thing, Danny. I couldn't agree more with you because the Mules, I think Fairfield was the first team to play close to El Dorado. El Dorado, like you say, up to that point hadn't given up more than a score a game, and Fairfield played with El Dorado. It was down there, and the Mules played a real solid football game against them. The El Dorado Eagles, for some reason, Coach Hampton, he's got a stud horse in the backfield. Dylan Roberts is just an outstanding back, but for some reason they go away from him. They want to establish some other players, and to me it doesn't make a lot of sense. I would say you just ride that stud horse as far as he can go. I'm certain they have other things going, but for me, Roberts didn't get the ball enough. If Roberts had gotten the ball over and over and over and gotten 30 carries a game, El Dorado's unstoppable, but Roberts is only getting 10 to 15 a game because they're trying to establish other things. Now, I can understand a coach wanting to do that, but boy, it just, to me, you're taking your life in your own hands doing that.
All right, 1:30 start today, Staunton at Fairfield, I believe. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that's
and I'm not going to say, I'm not going to make any kind of prediction because it was only 10% chance for rain here, and it's pouring in Fairfield right now. So I don't know what predictions are worth about the same thing they're written on.
Well, yeah, right now in Mount Vernon, just west of you guys, it's clear. Got that rain. It's cleared out. Hadn't rained here probably since 7:30, 7:15 or so. So clearing's on the way, but a slow track probably helped the Mules out, wouldn't it, a little bit?
Yeah, and I got to tell you, we were talking yesterday, and somebody had mentioned, oh man, it's going to be windy. That really stinks tomorrow. And I said, oh, it stinks. We want 20-mile-an-hour wind.
Right.
So they can't throw the ball. A running team, this will be a perfect sled for the Mules, hopefully.
Perfect weather for the Mules. We hope the Mules win as well. If Fairfield Staunton winner gets the winner. But El Dorado Carlisle. Before we let you go, Bruce, to get you ready off your day, I guess Brother Doug is ready to go for the Michigan State-Michigan game today. I've already seen him on Twitter.
Oh, has he? Yeah, he was up at that Champaign game last week that I was trying to put out of my mind, and he had a real nice time in Champaign last week, and I think I think Michigan's their homecoming game. He didn't go, but I think he's going to be in a nice mood today too, because I really think the Spartans are going to hand it to the Big Blue today, to your Big Blue. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I know. I'm also 2 years ago had to watch the Big Blue roll into East Lansing and get shelled as well. Actually, just physically overpowered on that day. I still have nightmares about that, but thank goodness I have Kentucky basketball to kind of keep me back on an even keel, you know.
You have to bring it up, don't you? You just have to bring Kentucky basketball up every chance you get.
I know. It's so nice. Hey, before we let you go, I got to ask this. This is our WMIX Sports social media question of the week. And this week's question is, what is the food or drink you must have if you are stranded on a desert island?
Budweiser.
There you go. There's nothing wrong with that answer.
Yes, Budweiser. No problem.
No food, just straight Budweiser.
Hey, it's got rice.
I love it. Bruce, thank you for joining us today on the Saturday Sports Show. Good luck today. We hope the Mules get a win, get to the second round. Maybe we can talk to you again next week here on the Saturday Sports Show.
Sounds great, Danny. Thanks a lot. Have a good morning.
And thank you. You too. That's Bruce.
Hey, by the way, good luck up there in Mattoon. When are you taking off?
We are leaving Mount Vernon about 11 a.m., heading up north. We're going to find a nice establishment restaurant to have a nice meal that we don't have around here. You know, we take the whole experience in of traveling and going to a new place. You know what we mean?
Oh, absolutely. Sounds like a lot of fun. I hope you get a big win and get to go on next week.
I hope we do, too, and hopefully we'll both be talking next week after a Mules and Rams win. How about that?
Sounds great, Danny. Have a good day.
Thank you. That's Bruce Dickey. He's the voice of Fairview Mules football. They play today at 1:30 against the Staunton Bulldogs out of the South Central Conference over to our Northwest. And, of course, Fairfield, member of the Black Diamond Conference champs, in fact. And we look at Staunton. You're probably asking, well, what about Staunton? Where did the Staunton team come from? And as I said, members of the South Central Conference, a closed conference. They play teams as Greenville, Gillespie, Carlinville, Pana, and Staunton. 5 teams also made the playoffs this year. Pana got beat last night. They were shut out in a ball game. Carlinville, of course, have had some runs in the playoffs in 3A. Remember some classic games at DuQuoin with Batatunde Ridley running back for Carlinville down there at DuQuoin when the turf at Van Meter Field was grass. For those of you remember that. Gillespie Miners were in the playoffs, as is Greenville. Of course, Greenville is 9-0 and in that Class 3A bracket. Greenville plays host to Freeburg today, and of course the winner of that Greenville-Freeburg ball game gets the winner of AJ and Robinson there in that 3A bracket. And of course Fairfield-Staunton, as we mentioned, the winner of that game will get the winner of El Dorado-Carlisle, and then Carmi-Chester will get the winner of Lawrenceville and Gillespie. That'll be next week in round 2. Of course, we have to wait to see what happens today. We need to take a break on the Saturday Sports Show. When we come back, we'll have another radio guy joining us today, Mike Rude, who does radio for Marion Wildcats football and basketball. Will join us to talk Marion's matchup today against Jacksonville, some South 7 as well, talk about Carbondale and whatnot since they've seen him recently, and his thoughts today on the Marion Wildcats and their game against Jacksonville. You're listening to the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX.
The health of your kidneys has a big impact on your overall health, affecting everything from your blood pressure to your bones. And if you ever have a kidney problem, Dr. Kangura is here to help. Dr. Kangura trained at the Mayo Clinic and specializes in conditions ranging from kidney stones and uncontrolled high blood pressure to chronic kidney disease. Dr. Kangura sees patients at Crossroads Specialty Clinic. For an appointment, call 618-241-9071.
This is your local State Farm agent, Tony Wilt. I want to thank Mount Vernon and the surrounding area for continuing to support us over the past 5 years. If you have never sat down with someone to go over your insurance program, let me invite you into our office. Let us show you what working with the industry leader, represented by a local agent, can do for you. I'm located just off 42nd Street. You can reach our office 24 hours a day at 242-1421 or on the web at tonywilt.com. Thanks again, and go Rams.
Saturday Sports Show brought to you by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital. It's what healthcare should be as we move along here in hour number 2. Danny Srwinski here. Jeff Crow pushing the buttons. Chris Hugo is working vigorously in the studio as we prepare for Mount Vernon at Mattoon. But another guy joins us on the radio side who shares a job that we all like to do as the voice of Marion Wildcats football and basketball, Mike Trude. Mike, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. It's been a while. Nice to talk to you once again on a Saturday morning of the high school football playoffs.
Hey, good morning, Danny. It's a great day for football, and I wish the game started at noon and not 2, and you just get that anxious feeling and ready to get going.
You're like me. I wish Mount Vernon's game would start about noon instead of 3 o'clock, but you and I have to play by the rules. And all right, right now I got to take you back to a particular moment in the schedule for Marion. After week 4, Marion loses at Cahokia 28-21. You come into Mount Vernon, and Mount Vernon has a big early lead. At that point of the year, when Mount Vernon had that lead in week 5, what were the thoughts of you and possibly what Marion was thinking at that time on their balance of the season at that point in the year?
Well, I know for me it was the make-or-break game of the season. The season was either going to go south after this game or maybe head north for better things. And I know that at halftime of that game, Kerry Martin kind of literally led his team the riot act. He told the seniors that this was it. If they didn't come back and win this football game, he was going to go and start playing the younger kids and literally build for next year. He wants to win every game, but at the same time, if this group of seniors wasn't going to get its act together and start playing together as a unit, that he was going to decide that the very talented sophomores that are on the roster were going to get more of a chance to play and kind of get ready for next year. So, something happened in that final 24 minutes of that game in Mount Vernon and in the overtime where the Wildcats, eked out that overtime victory against Mount Vernon, and then the season just really took off from there. So I think, without a question, that was the key point of the season.
Seems like an edge offensively went up as well. Since that 44-point put up against Mount Vernon Week 5, Marion offensively has put up 38, 50, 32, and 62. That goes along with a 57 in Week 2 against Mattoon. It seems the offense is finding their stride at the right time later in the year.
Well, they finally started running the football well. I mean, they struggled against Granite City. Cahokia was just so big inside that Marion's offensive line, and Marion's been probably the smaller team all year long, and I think they had to find a way to use their quickness more versus that brute strength that their offensive line just doesn't have against bigger defensive lines to get a new running scheme going. And whatever they worked on, it finally got clicking, in the portion of that Mount Vernon game and then throughout the rest of the year. And when Marion's able to run the football, it leaves the court Brad Hill wide open to do what he does best, which is either sit back in the pocket and pick up receivers, or, as we all know, he's got an incredible ability to scramble with the football. So it just opens up so much more for that offense when Carey's able to run the football, and Barlow and Dalton and Doris have all come on strong. Barlow especially is probably close to 1,000 yards now, and he was only at maybe 200 or 300 after that Mount Vernon football game. So in the last 5 games, Mitch Barlow has put up some huge numbers on the ground, and they haven't had to throw the ball as much. And if you can run the football, that's a pretty good formula for success.
I look at Marion today, and they host a Jacksonville team from the CS8. And, of course, last year Jacksonville came down and throttled Centralia in the first round of the playoffs. What does this Jacksonville team bring to the turf at Marion this afternoon?
Well, almost 2,000 yards in passing. Their quarterback, Bryce Schnittger, really likes to throw the football. They run it, but they don't run it nearly as much as they pass the ball. In fact, the teams are almost mirror images of each other from the offensive standpoint. They both run the spread offense. Now, Marion will go to that power, what they call their orange offense, where they put all 11 guys within, seems like 3 yards of each other on the line of scrimmage, where I believe that Jacksonville is going to keep it spread for the most part, but their quarterback, Schnittger, really likes to throw the ball. He's completed over 130 passes on the season for almost 2,000 yards, a ton of touchdowns. He just is very, very good, and they've got a tight end who's apparently 6'7" and about 240 that is a favorite target of their quarterback, Schnittger. So they are a much bigger football team than Marion. Their only losses were to Rochester, to Chatham-Glenwood, and to Springfield-Griffin. So we know the caliber of those teams. So this is not going to be a pushover win for the Wildcats. It's good that they get them at home.
And you get them on a turf, a 2 o'clock afternoon start. If the wind picks up like it's supposed to when the rain moves out, we see some of the trees moving outside the studio here. How much of a factor will that be if you have two teams that really like to throw the ball, get up down the field? If that wind kicks up and you can't do much, who do you think it favors as far as that is concerned?
Well, again, if the Wildcats can run the football, if Barlow and that offensive line can click on the ground, I think Carey's going to give it a shot early to try to run the football against this Jacksonville team. Then I think it sets up very well. It's not that Jacksonville can't run the football. They've got 2 guys who have over 600-700 yards apiece, but they just don't run it a lot because their quarterback just likes to go back in that spread and throw all over the field. They kind of use that West Coast offense where they're throwing little swing passes that are almost like running plays, but he's not sitting back there handing the ball off. So I think if the wind picks up, and it's going to be coming from, I think, the northwest at about 10 to 14, that can hamper a passing game, but they play in Central Illinois. They're used to wind all over the place in Central Illinois. So I don't know that the wind is going to be a huge factor today.
So, changing gears a little bit, our Mount Vernon listeners obviously are going to be either watching us on our WMIXsports.com, the game today, or going to Mattoon for the Rams and the Green Wave. You guys played Mattoon in Week 2. For our listeners, what can our listeners and fans of Mount Vernon expect out of Mattoon this afternoon?
I think they're a much different team than when Marion played them earlier in the year. They threw the ball all over the field that night, and the game was marred by, I think there was a flag thrown on every other play. I think the officials in that ball game must have been doing a training video for the officials to look at after the year, because it was a game with absolutely no flow to it. You'd run a play, there'd be a penalty. You'd run 2 plays, there'd be a penalty. So neither team was able to get anything really going. It was a high-scoring affair, back and forth. Again, Marion had to come back from almost like 19 points down at half to win the football game. So they had to throw the ball. Mattoon just threw the ball all over the field and took advantage of a Marion team that had no pass rush and at the time no defensive secondary. So I think Mattoon took what Marion gave them, which was the ability to throw the football. I think they're able to run the ball better now, but I think Mount Vernon wins this football game. I think they are bigger. I think the Rams are bigger. They have a better running game, and I think had Marion had the running game it has now, earlier in the season, that game wouldn't have even been much of a battle.
Well, you have run for office in Mount Vernon picking the Rams. You're trying to make everybody happy today.
No, I really do think that, if you guys are healthy, and from what I understand, everybody is pretty healthy, and you play, a fairly mistake-free game, I think you guys win the football game.
That's nice to know from somebody that knows a lot about sports. We got to ask you our final question, and it's our WMIX Sports social media question of the week. And this week's question is, what is the one food or drink Mike Trude's got to have if he was stranded on a deserted island?
Wow. Food's got to be, I'm going to go a little highbrow here. Food's going to be ribeye steak.
That's all right.
And drink, there's nothing better on a deserted island than a cold bottle of Coca-Cola.
All right. There's nothing wrong with that. Mike, good luck today. Hopefully Marion can get a win. We can talk to you maybe in the future. And, of course, if not, we'll talk to you, of course, at the Pyramid Tournament or when Mount Vernon Marion plays in basketball. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Danny. Good luck to you guys today.
Thank you. That's Mike Trude. He does radio for Marion Wildcats football and basketball as the Wildcats host Jacksonville at 2 p.m. on the turf in Marion, the CS8 versus the South 7 Conference. We've got to take a break. Another correspondent going to join us. It'll be Ron Weinmiller. He's, of course, saw a lot of Class 3A, 4A football this year. He's going to be on to join us, talk a little 3A, 4A football matchup here on the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX.
I'm Jeremy Pearson with a look at your next rad weather. Partly sunny and breezy today, high 56. Clear tonight, low 31. Then tomorrow, sunny to partly cloudy, high 56. Partly sunny on Monday and Tuesday, a blend of sun and clouds, high 62. Periods of rain and a thunderstorm will occur Wednesday, high 60. Next rad weather from WMIX, Mount Vernon, Illinois.
When you hear the warm, inviting sound of a crackling fire, what comes to mind? A rustic campground? A cozy cabin? How about the new Good Samaritan Regional Health Center? Our new family lounges feature a lot of comforts you might not expect. Things like this. No, that's not a babbling brook or serene stream out in the countryside. It's a 2-story waterfall located right here at Good Samaritan. And that's not the only way we're raising the bar for patient comfort. We've added lush healing gardens, as well as wall after wall of beautiful artwork, all designed to create the perfect healing atmosphere. And if all this sounds like music to your ears, we encourage you to check us out. Chances are, we're not too far from where you are right now.
The new Good Samaritan Regional Health Center. Raising a hospital, raising the bar.
Rend Lake College Theater presents Treasure Island. This swashbuckling stage adaptation incorporates plenty of comedy and includes all the adventures of Robert Louis Stevenson's classic tale. Enjoy nightly performances Thursday, November 7th through Saturday, November 9th, and a special Sunday matinee on November 10th. It's called a ridiculously funny version of the classic adventure tale. Tickets are just $12 through the RLC ticket office. Call the RLC box office at 437-4321, extension 1467.
Saturday Sports Show brought to you by Crossroads Community Hospital, where it's more than a hospital. It's what healthcare should be. Our final guest of the show this morning, as we get ready for the IHSA State Football Playoffs. A correspondent of ours during the fall, head basketball coach at Benton High School for the boys basketball program, Ron Weinmiller, joins us this morning. And, Ron, it's a gloomy day so far, but it's a beautiful day as far as high school football fans like you and I as we get ready for another day of high school football playoff action around Southern Illinois.
Oh, yeah, I think it's one of the days that you really look forward to. You know, I think after opening day in football, it's probably the number one day because about half the teams are still playing. And, you know, some of them probably know they don't have a realistic chance to win today, but for the most part, hope springs eternal today.
Heron, Anna Jonesboro, and Carterville, 3 teams from the River Conference that your school, the Benton Rangers, played during the year, and all 3 very different, unique games today. 2 of the 3, obviously I think 2 of the 3 winnable, at least at this point, with Carterville and Heron. I think AJ is going to struggle at Robinson. Your thoughts on those 3 games involving those schools?
Well, you know, I think Carterville's probably, if you're playing some lines, they're probably the heaviest favorite of all of those with the fact that they're playing a team out of Black Diamond. They've been so dominant this year. You know, the team Heron plays is one of those questionable things because you don't really know a lot about them. We don't see them in this part of the state, but a tough draw for Anna. We played Robinson last year in the first round. They bring a lot of guys back. Long trip, very tradition rich. I would be, you know, to be honest with you, I would pick Robinson in that one if you had to hold my feet to the fire.
And I look at, you know, obviously Carterville a heavy favorite against fighting Goreville. Like you, I'm looking at Robinson being a favorite with AJ having a long bus trip. Heron and Marquette. Marquette lost big early, won 7 in a row to get in. I think Heron's a team on a roll as far as that goes. Is there Breese Central, Mount Carmel? Breese Central got anything for a Mount Carmel team that was upset last week over at the pit?
No.
There you go.
No, that'll be running clock.
Wow, that's a big prediction there.
I feel very good about saying that.
Okay.
I think Mount Carmel's good. I mean, I think Mount Carmel stubbed their toe last week against a 5A, 6-3 playoff team, and I think that Breese Central, you know, no offense to the Cahokia Conference, but outside of Columbia, I don't think they have anybody that could play with Mount Carmel on a week-in, week-out basis.
Couple games I have my eye on today. One of them is Althoff at Columbia in 4A. I'm looking at very well, you know, as far as Metro East team is concerned. That's number 1 on my list. But is there Carbondale at Highland? It'll be interesting to see how Carbondale does against the champion, the Mississippi Valley Conference. Is there a game or games that you're keeping your eye on today as far as what you see as being a pretty good ball game?
You know, the one that interests me a lot is El Dorado at Carlisle. You know, El Dorado was so dominant early on. Carlisle's kind of been kind of flown under the radar a little bit, you know, with their lone loss being to Columbia. They kind of got us pretty good last week. So that's the one I'm kind of interested to see. And Staunton at Fairfield, I think that's an interesting game as well. So those are the 2 that I really kind of interested to see how they play out.
High school football is such a unique experience today. There'll be memories made, like Mount Vernon going to Mattoon. They haven't played in the playoffs since the first year of the playoffs in '74 when Mattoon won. You know, you've been a part of a football team that went to the playoffs in Hamilton County, which is McLeansboro then, and people don't forget these memories. What makes it so special about today as far as memories go, as far as kids and they become adults, and they never forget things like today?
Well, and you know, I think one of the things about it was so special for me is I got to share with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you don't really realize what a big deal it is when you're in the moment. But I remember my brother when we were in college, and, you know, Jason played on the team that went to state in 91, got third at McLeansboro, and I said, man, I never got to play in the state tournament. And he didn't even think. He said, but you got to play in a playoff game with Dad. And, you know, you kind of forget that this is a big deal. And if you're a place like DuQuoin or Harrisburg or Mount Carmel that goes 9 out of 10 years, maybe it's not as you don't cherish it as much. But when you're a place like Mount Vernon that's been through what they've been through, I promise you, Coach Shaner is getting on that bus with a lot of pride today.
When you look at another game you talk about, I got your eye on, is there an upset alert team or game that you've kind of got your eye on as far as maybe an upset as far as the teams involved in Southern Illinois?
You know, I hate to do this, but I'm going to do it to one of your old South 7 foes. I like Jacksonville over Marion.
Mm-hmm.
I love Kerry. I think he's one of the best football coaches in the state. But, man, they play in that tough conference. I really like Jacksonville over Marion today.
See, that's one, too, because Jacksonville came in last year and throttled Centre. I know the Orphans were beat up at the time, lost a couple of players at the end of the year. But Jacksonville out of that CS8 and the South 7, again, you and I have talked about it. In order for the South 7 to do anything 5A, they're going to have to go through the CS8, and the record against that conference, especially in the playoffs, hasn't been very good. And I'm like you, that to me is a game. I also think Carmi at Chester is an interesting game because I think that Carmi played with them and led them over at Chester in the fourth quarter 8-0 before Sailor kids started to cramp up. That's another game I look at as far as home teams, as Chester being on upset alert today as well.
I agree, and I talked to Wade Thomas earlier in the week, and that's what he said. He said that he liked Carmi over Chester as well. So I think those are two that you definitely could highlight and circle. But somebody will beat somebody you don't expect. It happens every year, and just kind of go forward from there.
Another team, Modern Day, is at Olney today. Olney's been making some noise in the eastern part of the state in football, getting some things done, a rematch from last year where Olney beat Modern Day. I mean, that's an interesting matchup there, I think, because Modern Day, of course, got in with a big win at Waterloo in Week 9. They come in with some momentum against an Olney team that maybe not playing the competition that Modern Day does during the year.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree. Modern Day plays that non-conference schedule, and you look at that, and so that way you that one could be interesting as well. And all talk to Columbia, you wonder about the people. Columbia's played a lot of 2 and 3A schools, so that way you kind of question that one as well. So you look at these bigger schools that play in bigger conferences dropping down for the playoffs, kind of makes you wonder. And even Mount Vernon and Mattoon today, Mount Vernon's played a much better schedule, and you got to hope that pays off at the end of the year.
You talk about Althoff, and it struck with me. Last year, of course, because of the multiplier or whatever going on for the private school favoritism, they get to play 2A, and they go to Chester for the first round. It's the first time in the playoffs that a Black Diamond school had to play a South 7 school. Then this year, to my knowledge, and I looked them all up, this is the first time that a South 7 school will play a Cahokia Conference school in the playoffs. I mean, Althoff drops down, but they're still playing basically Columbia, who is very good, probably a year away. But that's a game that Althoff could go right in and win because of their schedule and who they play compared, like you said, what Columbia did.
Yeah, I think Althoff's got to feel very, very good about their draw. I mean, especially the last 2 years. So, they've kind of been living right the last couple of years, and we'll see if they can do that out past one game or it's a one-game run for them.
Well, of course, in that bracket, I'm looking at it now. Althoff's at Columbia. The winner of that game gets Marquette at Heron, hoping for Heron today because I think Heron's a lot better playing better football right now. Of course, that's the Rochester bracket. If you can get out of the first two games in the top half of that bracket, you're going to end up with Rochester in the quarterfinal round. That to me is where the money is made. If Heron Rochester matchup be a tremendous matchup, I think in third round if that were to come about.
Oh yeah, I mean anybody that plays Rochester, I think you got to look out for them. I mean, kind of that old adage, they're the champion until somebody proves that they're not. So it's one of those things that you got to go out and beat them in order to you got to beat the best to be the best. So just kind of see how that plays out. But you want them coming to you if you're Heron. You don't want to make that bus trip.
What game is Ron Weinmiller going to head out today to watch or cover for WMIX Sports?
Great question. I think it's a doubleheader. Heron and Marquette, and then Chester, Carmi.
Wow, you're going to make that trip over to Chester. Have you ever been there for a game?
I have not. But Wade told me that's where we're going today, so apparently that's where we're going.
I'm telling you right now, and there's a lot of people in our listing area that haven't been to Chester for a game. I went 3 or 4 years ago, went with the DuQuoin crew over to watch DuQuoin at Chester, and they were still a member of the River to River. I think awesome because that's when Chester was starting to get their group together to make this run the dime the last few years. You will be amazed at the setup of that football stadium when you get there with the 3-sided mounds and people sitting on the grassy knolls and everything else. I'm telling you right now, you will be impressed with the atmosphere at Chester this evening.
Well, good. I'm excited about it. I'll report back to you and let you know.
All right. Hey, before we let you go and get on your day with Coach Thomas, you guys will be going at each other here in about a month. Our final question is our WMIX Sports social media question of the week, and this week's question is, what is the one food or drink Ron Weinmiller must have if he was stranded on a deserted island?
Ooh. That's a good one, man.
Uh-huh.
It's getting big today.
Yeah.
One food or drink. I'm going to go with a lot of soda, so I'm going to say, granola bars. I mean, I'm on the spot. That's the best I can go with, granola bars.
Granola bars. That's not bad. Must have been a pretty good question to get you to be stumped like that.
Man, I know. So, hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being on, and we'll talk to you again in the future, either football or basketball-wise.
Sounds good. Have a safe trip today, Danny.
Right.
Good luck to the Rams.
Hey, thank you, and also good luck to your games today as well. Ron Weinmiller, correspondent for us during football season here on WMIX Sports as we go through, and we thank all of our guests today. Jared Shaner, Todd Rushing, John Shadowins, Bruce Dickey, Mike Trude, Ron Weinmiller as they head out and about today, whether they're coaching or watching games or broadcasting games, as is the case with Mr. Dickey, Mr. Trude. Our guests had something a little different today. We thought we'd go a different route and get some perspectives from people who have experience and or do radio, give people a chance to chit-chat and whatnot. And, again, thanks for being on the show. We need to take another break. We'll come back. We got to go over some other sports stuff going on as far as our local teams here in the county. Got to go over that and do some other tidying up of things as the upcoming winter season starts rolling around the corner. You're listening to the Saturday Sports Show here on WMIX.
Here's Jeff Schmidt for Schmidt Chevrolet of Mount Vernon.
Consumer Reports ranked the 2014 Chevy Silverado #1 over the Dodge, over the Ford, over the Toyota. So we're really proud of our new truck. You also get a free maintenance plan. You don't have to pay for your oil changes anymore. It's really a remarkable deal. Right now we're offering up to $2,500 in rebates on the 2014 Chevy Silverado, so it's more affordable than ever. And like I said, they're selling good.
Schmidt Chevrolet of Mount Vernon, 3423 Broadway in Mount Vernon.
This is Chase Landers with Landers Collision Centers. Harvest time is approaching and hunters are in their stands. What does this mean for you? Deer are running more frequently now. I hope we don't have to meet in the near future because of these creatures, but in the unfortunate chance you do find Mother Nature dancing onto your hood, you can be confident that Landers will be here to tend to you and your ride. And, as our specialty and main focus is collision repair alone, no one is more qualified to restore your vehicle back to its previous condition or better, and in the process, helping to retain its resale value. Every day we continue to set the standards for quality collision repair. Give us a chance to show you what we can do for you. Collision repair is what we know. We should be good at it. Again, this is Chase with Landers Collision Centers, where we offer only the best in collision repair. Come meet the staff, take a tour of our facilities, and get to know the crew at Landers Collision Centers. Big or small, Landers fixes them all. Just give us a call, 1-888-LANDERS. That's 1-888-LANDERS.
High school sports are back, and your source for scores is WMIXsports.com. Also, find archived local sports broadcasts, video highlights, national sports headlines, and more right at your fingertips. Listen and watch live WMIX sports broadcasts from your desktop or any mobile device. Need a score? Want to see a sick dunk? Miss a game? Didn't get up in time for the Saturday sports show? That's right, it's all at WMIXsports.com. Another free service from Withers Broadcasting, WMIXsports.com.
Winding up hour number 2 of the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX, brought to you by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital, it's what healthcare should be. Denny Zerwinski here with Jeff Crow pushing the buttons. Chris Hugo in studio getting ready for this afternoon's broadcast of the Mount Vernon Rams at the Mattoon Green Wave. Another one of those high school teams that don't have an S on the other nicknames. That was perused about before the show. Of course, pregame at 2:30 p.m. this afternoon, kickoff at 3. It'll be on AM 940 WMIX, 94.1 FM WMIX, or you can watch it live at WMIXsports.com. We'll get you caught up on our scoreboard located at WMIXsports.com. One volleyball game last night. One was delayed from Thursday to Friday due to a leak in a roof. At the El Dorado Regional Championship, Galatia defeated NCOE 25-18, 10-25, and 25-22. Some football scores from last night that are in our neck of the woods, as we like to say. Williamsville beat Pana 45-0. Athens beat Nokomis 27-21. Moving on down the way, SHG beat Peoria Richwoods 45-7. Normal U High beat Decatur Mac 27-6. And in 7A, Edwardsville beat Tinley Park Andrew 59-28. And It was Nequa Valley beating O'Fallon 38-7. That gets you caught up on the scoreboard for the night. And if you want to look at scores anytime, organized by sport, bracket, however, we do it nice and neat here. Go to our prep scoreboard located at WMIXsports.com. We're going to take our final break. When we come back, we're going to get caught up on high school football games around Southern Illinois and the Metro East. We'll also get caught up as we have cross-country sectionals today. We got some teams and individuals in that to talk about, as well as a local regional championship volleyball winner to discuss as well. You're listening to the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX.
Hi, this is Joe David Cummins, President of Community First Bank. By now you have heard about our new One Checking product. The new One Account is a high-interest earning, free checking account designed for everyone. Unlike other banks that pay interest on higher balance, this account pays interest on all balances. From high schoolers to Warren Buffett, One will work for you. You can talk to one of us at 244-3000 and learn about the details. One, exclusively at Community First Bank. You will be one happy customer. Member FDIC.
I couldn't resist. Last month's Ram Truck Month was so successful, I have decided to extend the only true truck month. Hi, Roy Schmidt, Ram dealer at King City Chrysler, Mount Vernon. You remember me telling you that the deals couldn't get any better, and it can't. That's why I'm glad to extend the opportunity for 0% financing for 72 months, plus $2,000 cash back on new 2013 Ram Quad Cabs and Crew Cabs with the Bighorn, Express, or Outdoorsman packages. 2014s are arriving daily, and we are ready to deal to help close out the 2013 model year. Take advantage of these amazing incentives. Come see one of our sales associates at King City Chrysler Center at 1603 Broadway in Mount Vernon, Illinois, or shop us online at kingcitychrysler.com. Find us on Facebook, and don't forget our new Express Lane fast oil changes and more for service without an appointment.
A digestive problem can affect every area of your life. But now there's a specialist right here in town who focuses on digestive health. Mayo Clinic trained Dr. Tegpaul Atwal has opened the only gastroenterology clinic in Mount Vernon. Dr. Atwal treats acid reflux, gallbladder problems, inflammatory bowel disease, ulcers, and more. For your appointment with Dr. Atwal at Crossroads Specialty Clinic, call 618-241-9071.
We welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX and WMIXsports.com. It's all powered by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Mount Vernon Rams football, of course. You've heard it all day long, all morning long, I should say. It'll be at 2:30 today, your pregame. 3 o'clock, your kickoff on AM 940, 94.1 FM, and, of course, at WMIXsports.com. We hope you'll join if you can't make it to Coles County today, but if you can get up there, of course, you can take your radio. Should be able to listen to AM 940 if you want to hear us while you're there. Or if you really like being about 5 seconds behind, you can listen to the audio stream. That makes things interesting. But a lot going on today. Of course, cross-country sectionals are today. The Mount Vernon Rams finished 4th last week at Highland. David Moderate with a 5th-place finish, 3 in the top 20. The entire team advances to today's Decatur sectional. For the Lady Rams, Kate Mushu and Camilla Bauer advanced as individuals, so they run today at Decatur. And I know the entire team of Lady Rams unable to make it, but anytime you can advance as individuals at any level of postseason, anytime you can advance as a team, that's quite the accomplishment, of course. For Clint Turner and, of course, Connie Hari Blair. Not bad, huh? Good stuff for the Running Rams cross country.
Of course, we have the Woodlawn volleyball team, again, winning a regional championship, 3rd time in 4 years. On Thursday night, they'll play at the Lebanon section on Tuesday at 6 p.m., so we're wishing head coach Sarah Lomchik and the Lady Cardinals good luck as that starts on Tuesday. They have a doubleheader at Lebanon. They'll only play one match. But you also have the Rome tournament is next week.
The pride, the pageantry, the history.
Yeah, the Summersville tournament wrapped up this week. The Rome tournament starts next week and goes on. Of course, that is always kind of an annual kickoff for Jefferson County basketball fans to go to. Of course, you throw in the fact that on Monday, high school girls basketball practice starts. Then a week from Monday, high school boys basketball and wrestling practice starts. So lest we forget those teams and the sports that are coming around the corner in the wintertime of basketball and wrestling that we'll be keeping a particular eye on as well.
So the clock goes back tonight.
And your scale goes back too.
What?
You turn your clock back, you turn your scale back 10 pounds as well. You not heard that?
No, but I am going to do that first thing.
Turn your clock
get wound
back
back before the clock.
Turn your clock back and turn your scale back 10 pounds a night.
But okay, so we leave daylight savings, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, it gets dark like at 3 o'clock now.
Okay.
Starting
I always get that confused, and I actually had a purpose for bringing that up, and now I've since forgotten that purpose. Like, there was legit thought behind. Because the IHSA schedule rolling over because of the calendar, we lose a week, much like in the spring, we're going to lose an hour of sleep that we will gain tomorrow night. You only really gain that 1 hour one time.
Right.
Everybody's like, oh, we gained sleep. Well, just 1 hour once.
1 hour.
Whatever.
Right.
Some of us may not even gain that hour.
You find out who remembers what to do tonight when they get up and you see people coming in. I guess it would be late tomorrow.
Yeah.
To church.
Like, lest we forget.
Right. Be late.
Like last year, I did not gain an hour's sleep. I had some issues at one of our buildings and tended to that, and like I was up for the rollover. It kind of freaked me out because you got to be careful with the automation system
right.
stuff.
You kind of go, what?
Yeah, exactly. Here nor there.
So technically it's only 9 o'clock. We still have another hour to do.
If you want to look at it that way, that's fine.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we might as well roll until we leave.
Right.
That's true. It's kind of freaky.
Right.
Really. But anyhow, the Rome tournament, of course, next week. But we finally get underway with basketball, of course, with the girls' basketball practice this coming week. And I think wrestling gets started soon.
11th.
And everything like that. But it's just so crazy because of the way the calendar rolls over. The start dates for a lot of these sports are actually the same as what they have been. But because some other things are rolling late. Actually, no, they're not. They're still rolling at the same time. Because if one thing has to roll over, they all have to roll over.
Right.
So I just wasted all of that time for
Yes,
nothing.
you did.
It sounded good at the time.
No, it didn't.
In my head.
It rattled.
Yeah.
Tennessee Titans at St. Louis Rams tomorrow on AM 940, noon kickoff. Current Jeff Fishers versus the old Jeff Fishers.
What's his name? Mike Munchak?
Mike Munchak.
Didn't he go to Penn State?
Yeah. And then he was an offensive lineman with the Oilers back in the day. So,
but there we go.
Yeah, lots of interesting games. People getting ready to head out that have road games. AJ Robinson's a long trip today. Staunton to Fairfield, also Breeze Central to Mount Carmel, relatively long trips.
All boring road trips as well.
Yeah.
Unless you appreciate the same scenery over and over and over.
Well, but Breeze Central going to Mount Carmel, new place. Staunton going to Fairfield, new place. Mount Vernon to Mattoon, relatively new place in football. AJ to Robinson, that's a new place. That's AJ to Effingham and back across, or unless they've got a different way to go. Carmi Chester, been there and done that. It's Alton Marquette at Heron. That's a new one there. So, it's nice. I think in the playoffs for me, you get to go somewhere different.
The only thing I was disappointed with was the lack of Friday night options.
Oh, there was only one.
Yeah.
Well, if you wanted to go watch Athens and Nokomis, that would have been close. But Edwardsville won their game handily last night.
Had that been in Athens, I might have gone.
Right.
Definitely.
It's a long drive.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
Well, it's just
might have a chance next Friday. Just depends on how things go.
Well, hopefully.
Mater Dei at Olney, that's a rematch from last year. Remember driving back from Marquette last week when we thought, Mater Dei will shell Olney won. So that's a little rematch. I'm looking forward, if I could. Obviously, Althoff at Columbia is very interesting. Very interesting game on the turf. Can't forget those Metro East matchups. They're very good as well.
They are. And you mentioned, I think I like the mention of Mater Dei Olney last year, thinking that was going to be an easy victory for the Knights, and not totally realizing the bulk of the injuries that they had going into that game and the key starters that they were missing, and it ended up being in Olney's favor. But it's just one of those things where the land of the white squirrel able to get a big win last year, so they did that and then they advanced on. But a lot of teams will advance on. Hopefully some in the area will be able to play in Week 11. Hopefully the Mount Vernon Rams, we'll be talking about them in Week 11. But all in all, it's kind of a fun time. Actually, it's not kind of. It is a fun time, of course, for the 256 that are able to get in. You see some matchups you don't get to ordinarily see. And, of course, don't forget our WMIX Sports social media question is on Facebook and Twitter. If you were on a deserted island, which food and or drink would you take? Which one item would you have? I think mine would definitely be revolving around pizza, because I've watched that Survivor, man. I learned how to make water, or get water through the condensation process with a cup and some stuff like that. So that'd be mine. Our answers will be on Facebook here in just a moment. Hope you've enjoyed today's program. Of course, we'll be on the air at 2:30 with Mount Vernon Rams football, AM and FM. This is WMIX Mount Vernon, a free service from Withers Broadcasting, NBC News.